Welcome, everyone, to the Joy Rising Movement podcast, a space where we amplify the voices, experiences, and lessons of women, leaders, caregivers, community builders, and remind each other that we are always rising. I'm your host, Lisa Perry, and today is a very special episode. It's Mother's Day, a day that can hold so many different emotions at the same time. For some, it's a day of celebration, and for others, it's a day of reflection, and for many, it's a day that carries both love and loss. This conversation is for all of that. So today, I am joined by someone who is very incredibly special to me, but who has also walked alongside me in so many seasons of life. My bestest friend in the whole wide world, Nikki Nichelle Ray Downing. And this year, our conversation carries a deeper layer because in 2025, we both experienced the loss of our mothers. And so today, we're not just showing up as mothers, we're also showing up as daughters who are learning how to navigate life, love, and motherhood without the women who first showed us what it meant. This episode is about honoring them. It's about telling the truth about grief. And it's about recognizing how their love continues to live through us in the way we show up, in the way that we love our own children, and in the women we are still becoming. So, wherever you're listening from today, whether you're celebrating, remembering, grieving, or holding a little bit of everything, we want you to know that you are not alone. Nikki, I'm so grateful to have this conversation with you. I know we've been talking about it for a while. So why don't we begin at the beginning? Let's talk about our moms. Tell me a little bit about who your mom was.
So my mother, Catherine Louise Ellison, is her married name. Streets is her maiden name. When I think about my mother, I think about good morning. That's the first words that come to my mind is good morning. She was very, very big on speaking to people, just friendly, speaking, and always giving. Always giving.
Beautiful. Yes, Miss Kathy, she was special. She was special, always giving. I think that's what our moms have in common, and we know that to be true when we get the mail. All the things
There's
that they gave to in this world.
what comes to mind when you think about Miss Vonnie?
Oh my goodness. My mother, Yvonne Marie Bruce Lipscomb, fierce, a warrior. I think about her. She's the youngest of the girls in her family. There were six children. And so even at 86, when she passed, she was still the baby. But I just remember her, like you, being very giving. She loved to be out and about, and she always enjoyed, her bingo and her casino. So she was giving, but she also liked to win. Uh, and yeah, and I just remember her wanting to be a great mom, and the journey that we had together, as most mothers and daughters do, was rough at times. But where we ended, where we landed was extremely special. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's
So
beautiful.
let's get into it, bestie. I mean,
All
we
right.
do it every day. So what you all need to know about us is that we talk, I don't know, how many times a day?
Depends on the day. Depends on the day.
And we share a lot. And so we thought this would be a great opportunity to be in community with other women, with other daughters who are experiencing what we're experiencing this year. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the grief, sort of what this day feels like for us. I'll start just by saying we were just talking about this before we got on that, a lot of times when you have lost a parent, a loved one, especially a mother during these special holidays, people almost expect you to be sad. They start the conversation about, oh, it's Mother's Day. I know it's going to be a tough day. And they try to brace you for it. And, for me, and this is my first, I know this is your second Mother's Day
Yes.
without mom. And so this is my first, and I feel like I don't want to be sad. I don't want to take that day and just reduce it to the fact that she's not here. And I want to honor the fact that she was and everything that she meant to me. How do you feel about that?
I agree with you 100%. It's almost like people are, and they don't mean to, right? My dad says all the time, people don't have to think about you. Like I've already gotten some texts today where people are, I know this is hard for you. I'm praying for you. And I'm grateful, right? Because again, people don't have to think about you. But the reality is on a Tuesday afternoon, when I'm at the grocery store and I see, white American cheese, I, I might think about my mother. On a Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know, I'm wondering what I'm going to have for lunch. So the sadness for me comes at different times, not specifically for this holiday. And, part of I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do, whether I'm going to go to church, because church was such a huge part of my mother's life,
Hmm.
as well as my father's. And church is still very difficult for me, even though I've been going most of the Sundays. But I just don't, part of me doesn't want to go because I don't want that. I don't want that burden of accepting the kindness of others because they truly are being kind of
Absolutely.
that sadness,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? Because right now, when you say, how are you feeling this Mother's Day? I'm not really feeling anything.
Hmm.
It's almost like it's another day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I feel like for me, it's interesting that you say that because, it is just like another day because when my mom was here, it was an everyday relationship.
that's right.
And so I didn't wait till Mother's Day to put on a big show for her. It was I always say love is in the details, but it is. It's in the small
It
things that
is.
we do, those small conversations that, it's what I miss the most. I mean, every Sunday I was over there bringing her something she wanted for either her or the ladies in her building,
Right.
and missing that opportunity, just picking up the phone and just talking to her after work, hearing how her day went, just a little gossip here and there. That's what I miss. But my relationship with her was every single day. So Mother's Day it was a special day because yes, it's Mother's Day, but it never felt like that was the end all and be all. Like for me, this grief it's every day, right? It's learning to live alongside of it. And I think when it first happened, I think I said to you, Bestie, that I felt like I had to take care of grief. Like grief was this thing that also was sad. Like grief is sadness. And so I felt like I needed to care for the grief. And how I cared for the grief was to center myself in joy and talking about her and storytelling. And, you have been a huge, important piece of that healing for me because we keep them alive by the conversation and and what we've been able to share about our individual journeys. And so I've appreciated never wanted this for any of us, right? That I get to
Right.
walk alongside of you in this moment. But I have really felt blessed that if I'm going to go through this particular season, and I've been through many seasons with you, that I would go through it with my best friend. And God don't make no mistakes. I think, he understood the importance of our relationship and how important it was going to be for us to get through some of this together as best friends. Um, but yeah,
There's no way someone could have told me that I lose my mother in January and then you lose your mother, was it August?
August.
August.
Yeah.
In the same exact year, almost in the same exact way, in that it was all of a sudden, right? It was not planned, it was not foreseen.
Yeah.
Where my dad had been sick, so we slowly saw the progression
Yeah.
happen. Um, but you're absolutely right. Like there's not a moment of my day, and it is joy. Like even in the tears and the
Yeah.
missing, there's so much joy because there was such I believe my mother and I's relationship grew into a grown woman relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though she was still my mother and she held that place and I was still her daughter, it grew into these conversations about feelings, these conversations about, both of them, love the news, all about it, all about it, like those many conversations. But then the other part would be, her watching the cooking channel all day and she wanted an air fryer.
Mm-hmm.
She called me like in the middle of the day and I was like, "Hey, mommy, what is it?" And she was just like, "You got an air fryer?" I was like, "No." She was like, "I think I want an air fryer." So she went and she needed a stove, so she got a stove with an air fryer.
Yeah.
And she couldn't wait for me to try everything that she made out of this air fryer. And so it's moments like that, which I love Joy Rising is because I do lean more on the joy.
Yeah.
Like even in the sad moments, I lean on the joy because the reality is I would not be sad if this was not this true relationship of this
Exactly.
person, of this, not even person, this energy in my life
Mm-hmm.
that I've had my entire life through ups and downs, ins and outs, even when she didn't understand what I was talking about,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
In some kind of way, she was always able to weed through the pieces she did not get to give me whatever it was I needed that
Yeah.
only a mother would know what to
Yeah.
give.
My mom, she was a worrier. I used to say all the time, you can't worry and pray at the same time, mama. You can't do that. But, even at, 57, she was still tending to me, as we do our own daughters and my sons. And yes, I mean, I think that for me, just thinking about the joy of just going and sitting and just listening to her talk or try to memorize the words to Bruno Mars, Leave the Door Open, like you can't be sad when you think about those things. It just brings you joy. And we have so many videos with her and photos with her, which also allow her to remain extremely present. But yes, just to be able to sit and have them still continue to be mothers because they love that role. And so even though you and I grown ass women with grown asses, we were able to allow them to always be our mom, but also there was this new level. I have a cat, y'all. I'm sorry. There was a new level of, being a grown woman where I think they were extremely proud of us. I know your mother was so proud of you, and she couldn't wait to see your Sunday best. Going to church, and my mother was so proud of me. I mean, she told people all the time, "Oh, here's Lisa's business card. She can do something for you." She just thought knew everybody, and she said, "I gave your business card out to so and so." I said, "Oh, oh, okay, okay," but they were still moms to the very end. Um, but they also saw us as grown women, and I think they were extremely proud. Um, I'll tell you the thing that really gets me sometimes is, when my mom was declining, I did have to become more of the parent in the relationship. My mom came to live with me last April. And as you said, Bestie, she passed away in August, putting in a chairlift, and I was making all her meals. I called my kitchen the sizzle because my mother loved everything that was fried. I don't fry anything. So, but just to be able to care for her and for her to trust me and for me to continue to give her that dignity. And I think you and I both did that, with our moms, is we continue to give them dignity for the role that they played in our lives, but we also knew that sometimes we had to step in.
Oh,
And
and we were the parent,
and
you
yeah,
know, and so much so that my mother, you know, in every step of the way, she would say, "You have a job," and I'd say, "Mommy, I could get another job," and I would fly there for a doctor's appointment,
yeah.
be on the phone through something. I would call the doctor outside of, her talking to the doctor.
Hmm.
She would, it got to a point where she would not make any decision, whether it was health, financial,
Yeah.
talking to somebody, whatever. without she and I having a conversation. And you said it so clearly. There was this trust. There
Hmm.
was this blind trust that we knew what they needed. Like we would figure it out, we would get it, we would whatever. Like they didn't even think about it.
Right. Lisa will handle it. Nikki will
Yep,
handle it, you know,
yep.
and then
And she
we,
would just say, "Well, I'll just wait for Nikki," because she would go to do stuff, and I'd say, "Well, you want me to call somebody, whatever? I'll just wait till you get here."
yes.
And that was just the end of it. And me getting there, I'd say, "Well, mommy, I'm not going to be there maybe for another month. It's okay."
Wait, yeah. Uh-huh. This can wait. Yeah. Well, I loved your mother as well. One of the things that you gave me was that one letter from when I was my freshman year in college that
Yeah.
she kept all those years. And as you were cleaning out her place, she had already told you to give this to me. And it was so sweet to just remember that moment where I'm telling her all about my freshman year and who I was dating. But, through all of the, many years, our parents got to see both of us grow up and be mothers and all of that. And I always loved hanging out with your mom. She was fun. She had a great sense of humor. I think that's where you get it from, and your dad. Um, but it was always joy. And that's why we wanted to do this podcast today because it's just joy rising. And when you think about the rising, it is what you make it, right? So a lot of people think joy is this thing that is showered on you that comes, yeah.
Woo!
But it is the gathering of the bits and pieces of our stories, of our lives, of the memories. And so today, as we sit here and talk a little bit about that, it is the joy that is rising from even grief, and I think that's really special. So what I'm going to do, Bestie, right now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Now that we kind of got the grief and stuff out the way, we're going to talk a little bit more about, being a mother while grieving with our adult children. But wanted to take this off so we just kind of see each other a little bit more because you're in a little corner. Okay? You ready?
Are
Whoop.
you ready? Oh,
Oh Lord, have mercy. Okay. This high definition. All right. So, this is another thing we talk about all the time, Bestie. Our girls, our sons, our
well,
children,
our children, and
you know?
and and I'm and no judgment on anybody else and their families, but our children are not grieving their grandparent as much as they're grieving another parent.
Hmm.
Like that's the closeness that the children had. Your children called Grandma BB with their BB. Um, I mean, I remember how because she sat up late, Morgan would call her coming in from a party or what have you, and Xavier would call her when he was done
Yes. And you know what
at
she
the
would always
theater.
say? She would say, I think it's so special that my grandchildren want to talk to me all the time. She just didn't understand. She just thought it was so amazing that the person they wanted to talk to most after a party or after some big event was their grandma, was their BB. So yeah, absolutely.
And that to me, when you talk about, being a mother while you're grieving,
Hmm.
it also makes me reflect back on my own mother. And
Hmm.
there was a period of her life where, like, we can put a name to it now, where she was depressed,
Yeah.
right? We can put a name to it where she was like going through the motions, getting up every day, going to work, cooking, and then like she would sequester in her bed. And looking back on it now, she was grieving her mother,
Hmm.
right? She was grieving her mother while attempting to be a mother.
Yeah.
But unlike today, nobody was really voicing it. Nobody was talking about it. There weren't all these support groups and,
Yes.
all the and therapy and all
Yeah,
the
you
things.
held it in.
Um, where you and I not only have each other to go through it, because my mother, that was another thing that she exampled for me was the importance of friendships.
Hmm.
Where a lot of women around her age are very only do things with their husband, only do things with other women who are married,
Yeah.
that kind of, structure. My mother had friends of all types. Like her best friend in the whole wide world was not married, was divorced. My dad, when they would go places, my dad would say, and here's my bonus wife, here's my
Right.
extra wife.
Yeah.
Um, and they'd laugh about it. Um, but for you and I, this idea of being a mother while grieving, I'm not going to say it's more difficult than others, but it's unique because
Hold on, hold on, hold on. I'm so sorry.
we can't hear it.
Okay.
Only you can hear it.
Okay. I have
For
two
those
cats at
for
home.
those of you listening, it's the cats, and Lisa lives in the forest, in the wild. No, she doesn't live in the
It's
forest.
are
She lives
being
in the wild
reintroduced to each other today of all days.
of
So,
all
yeah.
days.
Okay, you didn't hear it
But
right.
but I think the difference may be, and a lot of women may be experiencing this, and hopefully we'll find that out once the people listen, is with my children, we're sharing the same stories.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm not going to say
absolutely.
we're on the same level per se, but like your children were a part of the caregiving. Like Justice was there, Morgan came home,
Yes.
Xavier came home. My children were, I'm going to check on grandma. you know, um, Catherine helped my mother and set up somebody to clean her house and come do her laundry. And,
Yeah.
so our
Yeah.
children, it's not this hierarchy or level of relationship.
Right.
We're all sharing the same stories.
Exactly. And I think that that's helped us a lot in terms of how the grieving has happened with our children, with the way in which we communicate with them. But it's also, I think, been really wonderful to watch how they have cared for us
Yes.
in this moment, right? They have really sort of seen what it looks like to care for a mother so well, because I think we did that very well. And so we modeled what our mothers modeled to us. And now, our children are doing the very same thing. And, that is the legacy of
Yeah.
these women,
Yep.
because family was very important to them. It was probably the most important thing to them. And you're right. I mean, my oldest, Justice, moved in for like the last 6 weeks of my mom being with us. He carried her. He helped clean her. He helped get her, and she trusted him more than she
Yep.
trusted me,
Yep.
to hold him up and to hold her up. And she fell one time, and Justice was down there with the quickness, got her up, got her in that bed, and it was beautiful. So not only did we talk about trust before, our mothers trusted us, but they trusted our kids too,
Yes.
to care
Yeah.
for them. And I mean, when you told me that, Katie had gotten, a cleaning service for your mom, I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And they love being able to tell that story.
I
My
do.
grandchild got this for me and that. My mother loved animals. She had every kind of animal. It's animal kingdom right now today, but it's been animal kingdom forever. My mother had elephants. She loved owls. She loved any kind of bird. Horses. It's the year of the horse girl. And so when she was not doing well, and the first thing Morgan did was got her a stuffed animal dog. She loves stuffed animals, Rainbow, who she
Yep.
kept with her the whole time she was in every hospital stay she was in. She's actually buried with Rainbow. That's how important Rainbow was. But then Justice would come home and he'd have a fox, and just they treated her just like they would have treated me as their mother. And I think it's just really beautiful, um, as part of their legacy, how that shaped up. And I think now when we're able to kind of continue to talk about our mothers with them, it's not from a place of having to teach them about our mothers. It's just a conversation of remember when, because they were there. Um, they were part of that story. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And Lola was part of the story. Lola
right?
sat in that room with my mother every day, and they had cat naps. And my mother would call, yeah, Lola and I had a cat nap. And then when she passed, she literally sat in my mother's chair for like 3 weeks, not leaving that chair.
Tiara loved my mother loved pop culture.
I know she
And
did.
when Tiara started her journey to be an entertainment lawyer, and she would run into these, rap artists and different people. And, Tiara's kind of in her bubble at times. And she would call my mom and she would say, Grandma, who is this? Grandma, what is this person? And my mother didn't just know the music, but she told you the backstory of this person. Oh, they're originally from Detroit.
Yeah.
Oh, him and his mother and father did this and this and that. Don't let him fool you. He's not hard. He did this and that. So she loved pop culture. And one of the last events, there were a couple last events that she went to was Tierra graduating from
Yeah.
Northwestern, and my mother had always wanted to go to college. She went to Duff's Business School for like a year and a half, but she had always wanted to go to college. And so after graduation, Tiara put her robe, her all her satchels, her hat, everything on my mom. And my mom said, "Am I allowed to wear this?" She said, "Yeah, Grandma, we graduated. We graduated
Yeah.
today." And took a picture of it. And my mother just cherished that picture.
Hmm.
And, one of the conversations we had before she passed was we talked about her signing up for a class at one of the schools. And she was like, "Oh, I'm too old to get a degree." I said, "You're never too old." I said, "But it would be something for you to do." And she
Yeah.
was so excited thinking about it.
Hmm.
Just the things that they shared amongst each other.
Yeah.
My mother watched all the reality shows, and so did Catherine. So that was like part of their conversation back and forth. And like I don't, me, I don't really watch them all like that.
You
And
watch them enough, girl. You watch them enough.
yeah,
I
but
know
I
for the
can't hold a,
fashion.
but I can't, but that's just it. So I got them on mute, looking at what they have on and
I know.
all the things. Where my mother would
Was in
hang
it.
up on me because she would say, "Catherine's calling, I gotta go." And
Hmm.
I go, "Why do you have to go, mommy? We got stuff to talk about."
Yeah.
She would
Yeah.
hang that phone up just as quick, or she would start talking to me and she go, "Oh, you don't know these people. You know what? I'll talk to you. Do anything else you need?" And I
Yeah.
go, "No, mommy."
Yeah.
Um, she
Yeah.
loved basketball.
Mm.
So that was the thing for her to watch the games. And she had Mr. Henry. They talk about the players, and even with that, maybe it's that coming from when she did, she knew the backstory for all the players,
They know. Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ones she liked, the ones she didn't like,
Hmm.
all of those things. So being a mother while grieving is just, again, it goes back to joy because I'm able to have these conversations with my daughters and you're able to have it with your children. And in the midst of them talking, they'll say, "Well, you know what grandma says." "Well, you know what grandma says," or they'll quote her and we'll both laugh because
Yeah.
we know where it
You
came
know,
from.
yeah. It's so funny
And
because I just was talking to Xavier before we hopped on, and he's having some back pain. And he was deciding whether he was going to go to somebody's graduation party on campus. And he was like, "But I'm in pain. I'm hurting." I said, "Well, you know what your BB said." And he said, "I know you can hurt anywhere." And I was like, "Yeah, it's great that they can recall those things.
yes,
It's great that they
yeah,
can recall
which
those."
is again where the joy comes from.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
used to
Yeah.
say it to people, and I think before my mother passed, even before my father passed, I think people thought it was something sweet that I would say, but I honestly believe that, it the relationship was a gift.
Oh,
And so when the
100%.
grief comes for me, the grief is also a gift because you would not grieve someone
Yeah,
that did not mean something to you, that did not
exactly.
lay seed in you that has blossomed. You wouldn't
Exactly.
you wouldn't grieve for that
Right.
person. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so the
Hmm.
idea that this wave of grief comes, for me, I call them waves, right? Because they just come when they want to come. The tide comes in and out.
Yeah.
When they come, it really is, as sad as the moment is when it hits, the joy is like the
It comes
undercurrent
under,
of
yeah,
it.
it comes, yeah,
It
yeah. Hmm.
I cannot, there are no moments where I can have both. Like physically, and I think physically my body sto- stores or remembers the grief more than me, my heart and my head
Yeah,
thinks about it,
yeah.
because it's just like, why am I sleeping so much?
Hmm.
Why do I feel a little sluggish? Why am I whatever?
Yeah,
And I know that that is the trudging of the grief, but like in the trudging, I'm still feeling
yeah.
this little light of joy.
And I think the fact that we have each other to share those things, it keeps them alive. Like it's one thing to, think about it in our head and all of that, but to be able to articulate it out loud, it feels even more of a blessing, obviously, to have you to be able to sort of laugh with and talk about some of that out loud. Because in my head, it's constantly all day. Like every second, I can think about something and my mother and it just kind of, like you said, kind of like you have these waves. But when we take a moment to share with each other, that small pause allows for us to sort of have some levity and some joy in the moment. And it just kind of frees me, I'll speak for myself, it frees me from sort of going into a deeper sort of depression about the loss, just the other day, I was looking at myself in the mirror and I saw my mother's eyes looking back at me. And that wave, it was like, and I'm at work. So I was in the bathroom at work. I was like, you got to get it together. And the only thing I could say was, "Hey, mommy," like to myself, looking the eyes that are mine, but they look like my mother's in that moment. And it was just enough so I could go back to my desk and work, but there was also some joy in that, Um, and when I'm talking to the kids, what I wanted to make sure we did was make sure that they knew it was okay to keep talking about her, you know,
Yes,
and that I wasn't going to be sad so much that it would cause them to never mention her. And so that's the wonderful thing now is that it's just a constant. I mean, we almost have like BB time in every conversation. There's something that I don't talk to the kids every day, so they will have thought about her just like we're talking about these waves, and then they'll save it all for the conversation on the weekend, and we just get to have a moment, a BB time. And I'm a big Facebook person. I've put a lot of pictures of my mother over the years on Facebook and us being out and about with the kids. And so every day I look at my Facebook memories. And I swear, Bestie, every day there's one that also includes my mom. And it's so great to sort of stamp it, and then I can literally sit in that joy of like, I remember that moment. I remember all the things that happened. I remember where we were, what we talked about. So I really do appreciate sort of those memories. But then I also have these videos and photos of us um, by date as well. So I can kind of just see what was happening. And I don't know if this may sound strange, but even as my mother was not doing well, on some of those days, I still have a video. Like I have video of taking her to dialysis.
it is strange.
It is, I know, it is strange, but like she would walk, she'd be in her walker walking up to the door, but I would take a picture of her walking up to the door. And it comforts me now to see
I
her
know it does. And you said
walking.
it then. You said it then when you were making the videos. This is going to comfort me later. This is
And,
going to
yes.
comfort me later.
I
Um,
knew the end was coming, and so I made a conscious decision to say, what might I need when I'm grieving her and she's not here? So I literally made a conscious decision of like, what do I need to capture so that I will remember her alive and not just when she was sick. I have pictures of her when she was sick too. I have a video of me putting lotion all over her hands and arms when she was in hospice. I took a video of me doing that because I wanted to remember touching her. Now my cat just bit me. I wanted to remember her, touching her while she was still here. Um, So yeah, it does comfort me and it does bring me that joy as well. But some things I can't look at right now. And I realize I don't look at them as much anymore, Bestie. I don't look at them as much as I did when it first happened. Um, I'll look at older things like with the kids when they were little. Like the one that came up today was my mom used to go to Grandparents' Day, which was around Mother's Day at Xavier's school when he was in elementary school. And it was a trek because it was out in Ligonier and but she was so excited, so proud, and she couldn't wait to get there. And that's what bubbled up today. Um, and I remember that very day. I remember the exercise she did in the classroom and those are the memories that I'm thinking right now are the ones that I pull from. I can't go as close as the last few months of her life right now.
Which is good, only because that's not what she would want you to remember her as
Oh, no,
anyway. You
no.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like she wouldn't, um that's not what she would want you to lean on. She would
no.
want you to lean on these other
Yeah,
moments, you know.
yeah,
And I was didn't know it at the time, right? But I was blessed that, when I got divorced, I lived with them for 6 years and my kids were young.
yeah.
Katie was like a newborn. And
Hmm.
so, to be able to every single day see my parents as grandparents,
Yeah.
see them dote on these children. My dad loved to take pictures. So there's a million, and Catherine loved getting her picture taken. So there's like a million
Hmm.
pictures
Yeah,
of them.
yeah.
So it's like, people talk about legacy. There's a woman on Instagram right now that's talking about the legacy of her mother and what she's doing. And I know you started a foundation for your mom. Would it be considered a foundation?
It's like a donor advised fund
Okay.
where yeah, around literacy, which is my mother was worked at the Homewood Library for 21 years, and so that was how I wanted to try to honor her moving forward.
Yeah. And which is so beautiful. And, I thought about it and I talked about some different things. And I said, you know what? My mother's legacy is the seeds that she planted all over the place.
Hmm.
Um, Not just in us, but, you know, even when I went home in August, when your mom passed, and I was there, and I think I went to order the flowers, and the woman kept staring at me, and then finally I said, oh, you might be seeing my mother in me, and I told her who my mother was. She was like, where is she? How's retirement? And the woman was like so alive. She was like, oh, and your dad didn't come in this year for the flowers. I was like, oh, you don't know
Hmm.
anything.
Yeah.
And so, talking to her and explaining everything that happened, and then going to the car, she didn't ask, but going to the car and getting a program. Like, that was a big thing. Like, I dropped programs off there. I dropped them at the library. I dropped them at dialysis. I took them to the lottery stand. And, for me, that legacy of hers was friendship. That was so important to her.
Listen, yes.
Long before Oprah made the statement, my mother believed that people needed to be seen and heard.
Yeah,
Um, so,
girl, follow up.
so there were people from the JCC that would come over and buy one stamp,
Hmm. Yeah,
and they would wait in line for my mother because my mother would remember, oh, how's your grandchildren doing? What happened at the doctor's?
yeah,
And they would have these conversations. One of them found out that my mother liked grapefruit juice or something, and they had some free lunch at the JCC. The woman came all the way back over and brought my mother this little carton of grapefruit
yeah.
juice. It got to the point where at the bank, my mother would need change for the post office. She would just call the bank. Like, she's supposed to go over there. There's supposed to be forms. There is a protocol. She would call them sometimes. She said, we got a line out the door. What I need is, and she'd tell them, and somebody would bring it over. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah. Well,
Who did?
and we get it honestly, because that's what we do now, right? I mean,
That is what we do.
it's exactly what we do. And I would be remiss if I didn't, talk about the same thing with my mother. My big thing is community currency. And I think, our mothers both, my mom did not have a lot of money, but she had a lot of love for people. And, uh, working in the Homewood Library for 21 years, those kids were her kids. Every patron that came in, she remembered what books they liked. They'd have recommendations for them. And, her partner in crime, Ray Clancy, who still works at the Homewood Library, and now I talk to him every day, was her best friend. And they talked even after she retired from the Homewood Library. But that's exactly what they did. And even when she moved out of her home and into a senior building, she was taking care of everybody. She called me, right? Like your mother was calling the bank for some change. She was calling me, listen, I need you to bring me some kale tomorrow. And I'd get there, or I need you to bring me some Kleenex. We need about 5 boxes. I get there and she was giving them to everybody else. I said, "Oh, I didn't realize this is what was happening." But you used to say it all the time. Like I would be bringing her all kinds of things. I'd make pound cakes. I made, sweet potato pies, applesauce, apple butter. I sold Avon for those ladies because my mother wanted me to,
Right.
because they
And I
couldn't get
think
out.
that's and I think that's people talk about legacy like it's this thing you have to sit and you have to delineate and you have to figure out and you have to say it. And I think for you and I, the legacy is natural and it's just continuing on with this life of
Service.
friendliness and
And
service. And for as bad as you think you have it, someone else has it worse. So is it really going to hurt me to you know get an extra tube of lotion and give it to this person?
yeah.
I'm grateful that my mother saw fit to have all of these aunts that are not my blood along with my blood aunts in my life, because those are the things she left me for these moments, these women who knew her as a child,
Yeah.
and knew her young. And so when I have these days or I have these moments, I can call them and they can call me and
Hmm.
say, "Oh, I was just sitting here thinking about your mom. There was one time we did X, Y, and Z." And a lot of times it's a story that I had never heard.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And so I have these pieces of my mother that, so I don't feel, I don't feel like she's passed and I don't know about her,
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
all of her. And then, as you know, my mother loved to write. You and her have beautiful handwriting. So she loved to write and she would write on slips of paper. And we found notebooks where had written, like, just like on some page in the middle, she wrote a note of something she was thinking about. And so as I went through all the notebooks, I ripped all of them out and I keep them in my nightstand.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things that I am doing or attempting to do, I'll say attempting to do, is ensure that I live my life to the fullest.
It's the best gift we can give our mothers.
Because these notes from my mother, some of the notes show where she did not do that. Some of it was life choices, some of it was the era they grew up in, and it wasn't really necessarily, they truly grew up in the era that you can't have both,
Right.
right? And so I remind myself every day, okay, are you living boldly today? Are you,
Hmm.
and I don't mean hang gliding off a
Right.
mountain, or
Right.
traveling all through Europe with a backpack,
Exactly.
but just, you know, I woke up today. What did you do today that really filled you up? That was for you,
Hmm.
which is a difficult thing to do when not only you're a mother, but you've also been mothering your mother,
Yeah.
right? Like you were the caregiver.
Hmm.
And so, I remember that day of the funeral, and all of a sudden, as we're leaving, it hit me like, what am I supposed to do tomorrow?
I remember that. I remember we were hugging when you came in and you just said, what am I supposed to do? And I remembered that at my mother's funeral was, and that's why I think for us to have gone through it so close together, um, because you not only those things from you having gone through this first helped me be able to sort of recall things that I needed to be paying attention to. But you also were here with me as I was prepping for my mother's funeral and her repast and her burial. You came with me to, the funeral home.
And the kids were like, Xavier was like, she doesn't need anything. She just needs space and she needs this and that and blah, blah, blah. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, thank you. But it's like, I was there. I know.
Yeah. And so it was so invaluable and so meaningful. Again, nothing I would ever want us to have had to do with each other. But yes, I think, for me, her legacy, beyond the things we've talked about, really, I have her mug. I would give her coffee, and it's a library mug that she's had it for years, and I drink my tea in it, even though she liked coffee. But her legacy is books, reading, literacy. My kids, we lived in New England for years, and there were not that many books that had kids that looked like me or the kids, and she would send boxes upon boxes of books that had little black and brown children in them, history, and she and Xavier, the legacy of her love of music sits with us. She'll tell Xavier all the time. Xavier is a classical musician, vocal musician. That she was in the Westinghouse choir, and that's where he got his talent from. And it might be true because he didn't get it from me. And with Justice, they had this love of history, but
Yep.
it was because my mother read, because she did not go to college either. But she was, I mean, she should have been on one of them game shows, because she
Yeah,
loved.
because you could ask them anything.
Yes, and that's the thing. My Morgan, she, was grappling with religion and had lots of questions. She would just call my mom and ask her anything, and there was just this openness. And her and Morgan had this special relationship, not only, calling when she got in, but my mom used to send her DVDs, bought her a DVD player, first of all,
Right.
and sent her DVDs of old movies from the 30s, 40s, and up, that she thought Morgan should have, watched. And they would watch them separately. And then Morgan would call, and they would have a whole deep conversation about the movies. And it was really interesting because I can't remember the name of the movie, but my mom, when she was getting ready to go into hospice, and she was just talking out loud, and she was getting uncomfortable, and Morgan had come in, and she used a line from one of those movies that they watched. I've never seen these movies. This was their thing, and she used a line, and my mother switched with the quickness.
Yep.
Her mind went right to that. She was not sort of fully coherent, but it was this line, and it just launched my mother back into reality. And she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight." And I think that is, this legacy of our mothers is about a building of a family, of a unit that, without her, still can exist. There's some legacies that you remember that
Mhm.
person and what they did and what they meant, but it's still living.
Yes. Yep.
Your girls, it's still living in them. And so that's what I love the most about when I'm thinking about grieving, what is left in the aftermath. Isn't ashes. It isn't pain. It isn't sadness. It is memories that are grounded, stories that will continue to be shared. And, I think whenever you can keep somebody's name alive and their story alive, they're never gone. And so I'm appreciative of my mother, for giving me that gift. And I am appreciative of my best friend, you, for allowing grief to be a tangible thing that we could talk about and get through together. And I think, my other question to you is like, what do we do next? You talked a little bit about it, like in terms of like how you want to live your life and making sure that you're living it with abundance and you are, doing the things that would amplify your life and not living a small life. But what is next for us, Bestie, and as we think about this legacy and how we want to continue to show up, not just in for them, but also for ourselves when we think about what's next. We've been talking a lot about retirement and things like that, and like what we want and girl, what dreams we still have, the dreams that our mothers had for us. Um,
I think one of the biggest things that I attempt to do, you and I always have, right? Especially with our parents. Like you and I'd say for the last, for sure, I would say the last 8, 9 years have
mhm.
been very aware and conscious of we're going to miss this when it's gone. We're going to miss this when it's gone. We're going to miss this irritation, right? Because we might be pissed about something or what have you. But I think one of the biggest things is that you don't have to have a big life to live a big life.
Amen.
Like my mother, for all intents and purposes, was always afraid of life.
Hmm.
But I realized through her notes that it was just her way of protecting herself from being disappointed. And but in that, she had a big life right there in Pittsburgh, like doing the things that she did. Was she in the Courier? No. Was she on a billboard? No. Did the who's who and the what's know who she was? Most of them did, right? But was she in the circle, right? No, she wasn't in the circle.
She had a hard
But
life too.
but she had a big life. And so this uh moment we are in time where Instagram tells you you need to live a big life. You need to have the closet, you need to have the clothes, you need to be on a yacht, you need to be traveling, you need to be eating out every night where they, make spectacular meals and all of that. Where I've learned from my mother, you and I seeing a commercial about Taco Bell having a new, I don't know, whatever, and going and eating it and not liking it, that's a moment. That's a big life.
Mhm.
Us watching the cooking show and making, we love us the
Yes,
Duchess Megan,
yes, we
and
do.
you and I, now you're freeze drying fruit, and we're making
Yes.
bread, and we still have to figure out how we're gonna make these silk scarves that the Duchess made. But
Get there.
it's what I've learned from my mother is a big life is as big as you feel it and you make it. And part of living a big life is to stop telling yourself no and stop telling yourself next time.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you know, you one of the things my mother used to say all the time is, it's just money. You're worried about, oh, I don't want to do that because that's $80 and I need to be saving $80, because I'm trying to do this, that, and the other. But if spending that $80, whether it's going to the movies or dinner or buying a blouse, especially for my mother, buying a blouse for someone,
Hmm.
right? That $80 will come back to you some kind of way.
Yeah, and that's what my mother, I mean, she was on a fixed income, but she had more money than sometimes I had in my bank account, right?
Right.
And she gave freely, and she would always say, "It will come back to me. If I give it freely, it will come back to me." Um, yeah, I think that's interesting. I was
And
trying.
they would give it with no worry.
Oh yeah, not yes,
Like you
absolutely.
and I, you and I talk about it. Like you and I sit and have these pros and cons conversations about, the $80, but they never hesitated.
No.
And it didn't matter what it was. It did
Oh,
not matter what it
oh
was.
no. When my mom was in the hospital, I'll never forget this young lady came in. Now she's on really a fixed income. She's living with me, and she smelled really good. And my mother said, "What are you wearing?" And she said, "Burberry something." And after the nurse left, she said, "Go and go and get yourself some, get Morgan some, and get Veronica some." And I was like, "Mom, you don't want to do that." She was like, "What I got to do with it? Go get it." And I want to see that you got it because she was in the hospital, so she wouldn't know. And she just gave so freely, to your point, without question. She knew that money would come back to her, or she'd be at the casino trying to figure out how to get it back. But like she was, yes, she
But
was
in that moment
generous.
of giving, there was not this, like, you and I talk about it all the time. Like I'm having a drag out conversation with myself about this $80, $20, whatever it is I'm getting ready to do. And I'm rationalizing and figuring out, okay, well, if I do that, then next month I have to, and all this.
Yes.
And they never, it was literally like your mom said, go get it.
Yeah.
Go here it is, go get it.
Mhm.
Did not worry about if it could be their last, right? It could be their last for the moment. It could be, and that's the other thing. They didn't look at it as their last. They looked at it as their last for the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like you said, on a fixed income,
Yeah.
you know, it's where it's coming from, I have no idea. But they never questioned, they never questioned that God was truly going to provide.
Oh, 100%.
If I was meant to have it, it'll come back to me. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm not meant to have it, then it won't.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. But I'm still going to buy this thing. I'm still going to give this to so and so. I'm still going to
Oh,
go do this.
it's so funny because I still have my mother's her little calendar that she kept all the birthdays and things in, and she would literally would have, buy a $50 gift card on this date, mail it to, and so this year to honor her, I went through up to right now that calendar from last year and tried to mail the same birthday cards. My mother was, both our mothers were card people, and they started writing each other too.
And they had started writing each other. Yeah, they were big on cards.
Yeah, but like I've been trying to do that as well, and people have been so appreciative of just, thinking about, oh my gosh, Bonnie had me in her calendar, whether it was $5 or $50, whatever. Yeah, it's very generous. I think one of the things as I'm myself moving into this next phase of not grieving, but just in terms of who I am is the thing I'm really going to try, and we talk about this all the time, is I really am going to put a lot more emphasis on my health. Having seen my mother, you called her gangster for all kinds of reasons, because she is. And we can't talk about them today, Bessie. We can't let them in on the secret. But you know, we're not going to tell it. But
Yeah.
she had three different cancers. She survived. She was a breast cancer survivor, 31-year breast cancer survivor. She had skin cancer. She had multiple lymphoma. And she came through those um, with flying colors. And it was the kidney failure that got her in the end. But I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to my health, not just losing the weight, not for vanity purposes, but for longevity. Because, my mom was here for 86 years. How beautiful is that? And I would like to be able to have a legacy of life that long. Her sister will be 99 in July. And
Oh,
God
wow.
love her, she's still here. Her oldest sister. They were born on the same day, the oldest and the youngest, and the oldest is still here. But, I want to be able to see my grandchildren and to do the things that my mother was able to do with those kids, just like your mom, my mom. I mean, and she hated to fly, but wherever we were in New England when we were there when they were young, she would get on that flight a couple times a year to be part of their lives. And so I'm really focusing that now on that. You know, I think I worry my doctor too much as I'm always on the phone. Like, what do we need to do about this? What do we need to do about that? But less about vanity, more about sustainability and longevity. Um, because I want what she had, right? I want all of what she had, those grandchildren, being able to see them, see my kids. I know we are both extremely proud of our children, and I want to be here to continue to celebrate them on their journey as they continue to grow. And I want to be there with you, bestie.
Oh,
Be there with you because I remember at your mom's funeral, her best friend got up and spoke about, there's one that's going to go before the other.
yeah.
And this ain't no race.
Right.
But I want us to be, look, if we could be in the same room at the same time, I would be like, one, two, three, go, let's go. Do like a Thelma and Louise kind of moment in the hospital. That's what I would prefer. But I want us to be with each other for a really long time. We
Yeah, we do talk
talk
about it.
about it, but I realized, recently, like if that's going to happen, I need to prioritize some health things.
Well, I'm a farmer, so I'm going
You
to be
are a
fine.
farmer. You are. I'm a baker. That's not helping.
But it is helping because as a baker, you're controlling what's going into you as
That is
opposed
right.
to
That's right.
going somewhere else. You don't know how much sugar's in it. You don't know what's processed and what's not. So,
That's right.
you're doing it. And it's the little pieces and the little parts.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this cat, I don't even know what to say. So we talked a little bit about friendship as support. Um, what has it meant to grieve at the same time for the two of us?
I still have moments where I can't believe it.
Hmm.
So that part of it is just I can't believe it. I have moments where I just can't even believe that this is the parallel. Um, I tell you, it's not so much that I appreciate that we're grieving together as much as I appreciate the relationship and the friendship to where you and I can be talking. I can say something about my mom and then pick up whatever the conversation like and keep moving
Yeah,
where I don't have to stop. We don't have to dwell in it. We don't even have to, like, when you respond back, like, you don't even have to mention it. But it was just like, so I appreciate that about the friendship, that it's so sprinkled. It
yeah,
can just be sprinkled in there throughout. And I'm grateful that through our friendship, I know so much about your mother
hmm,
that you can sprinkle without explanation.
yeah, yeah. The shorthand. Yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
just for the audience that's listening, Nichelle and I have been friends since the ninth grade. I was 13, you might have been 14, I guess, because you're just a couple months older than me. But 45 years. And I think that does help in what you're saying is that we've had a shorthand all our lives.
and then we found out after we became friends, like like, I say maybe around junior, senior year, we found out that my dad lived right across the street from your mom.
Yeah,
And then,
forgot
and
about
both of because my dad remembered you as a baby.
that. I
And
remember
then
that. Yeah.
both of my parents knew your dad
Yeah.
from high school. They
Mhm.
knew who he was and all that. So it's just, the world is big and small.
Yeah.
Um, but all of that, and then fast forward, Tierra's working at the library. Her library is being renovated. They take her to the Homewood Library. She comes home talking about Miss Bonnie. She just keeps talking about this woman. And
Mhm.
I said, "What is her last name?" And she said, and we have, moved back to Pittsburgh by then, and you weren't I think
I was
I
in New
want to say you
England.
weren't living here then.
Mhm.
And she said, her last name is Lipscomb. And I was like, that's Lisa's mama, you know. And then I told the kids the library that your mother worked at was the very first library I ever went to
Mhm.
because it was across the street from where my parents lived when they had first got married. And so, you know, the world is just it's just big and small.
Yeah.
It's just big and small.
Yeah.
There's no way to put it except it's just big and small.
Yeah.
But I think for me, that's where the parallel of the gratitude is not so much that we're going through it together, but that we know so much about each other's lives, our mother's lives, and all of that, that it does not have to be a moment,
No.
right? It gets sprinkled in the conversation, and, you know, like you're cooking in the morning and you're like, I'm getting ready to have some bacon. And me and you look at each other because you're like, I don't know what kind of bacon it is, probably the wrong bacon because your mother, when she was
Very
staying with
particular.
you, we didn't even know there was such a thing as good bacon and bad bacon until she had you going to every store uh trying to find the right bacon. She ate it, but she made it clear this was
She
not good
ate it
bacon,
and then she
not the
talked
right
about me like a dog on the phone to Mr. Ray. And then I'd be texting him in the other room like, I tried.
right. You know, so
Yeah.
that's the part that I'm most appreciative of. Not so much, like I said, that we're going through it to at the same time, the parallel, but just that the friendship is such that we can sprinkle it. And I remember my mother with her one friend that they'd known each other since they were 12 years old. Like they would say, you know, Miss Pope, that was her friend's mother's name.
Mhm.
You know, Miss Pope wouldn't go for that. And then, you know, she would say to my mom, now, you know, Louise, you know, and they could, but it wasn't a moment that had to stop
No.
anything
Yeah.
or conversation. It was just dropped in, move on.
Yeah.
And
No,
so
yeah.
I appreciate that.
I feel the same way. I mean, I think, you said earlier, I can't believe it happened this way. It is the thing that still catches me off guard sometimes. And I remember being in the hospital, I was like 2 floors under where your mom was when I went to visit her, before you got here. And
What was
I
that, like a month? That was like a month after mommy passed, like
yeah,
maybe?
it was February 10th. It was February 10th. It's like
Insane.
3 weeks after the funeral
It's
because
just insane.
it's insane. And I remember thinking, I was just here. I was just here. And, I think what I've appreciated about having you with me in this journey is that I was able to have somebody who truly understood what was happening, and gave space for that. Like you didn't, there was a point where I think when my mom was in the one of the departments and she wasn't doing really well. You just got on the phone and called Mount Aaron and asked for some women to come and pray over my mother and over there. And that's what you did because you knew how important it was before I even could think of it, right? And I think the fact that it's not only just our history of having a shorthand, we know what each other would value or appreciate without having to ask. You came with me during, the preparation for my mother's homegoing, and you leaned in places where I didn't know enough. Remember that one time I was like, "Oh, I don't think we need that." You were like, "You're gonna need it." When we were sitting there with at the cemetery, I forget what it was. You were like, "Oh no, you're gonna need some chairs." I forget what it was.
Yeah.
You were like, "Get the chairs," and I just said, "Okay." Right? And so the fact that,
Well, and you went when my mom went in the hospital and I was still trying to get there, and you went and then you called and you said, listen, this is what she looks like. This is what's happening. This is what you need to prepare yourself, Bestie. You need to prepare yourself because you also knew that along with being worried about my mother, you knew I had shit to do.
yeah, I,
Like there was things that had to be done. Why, that's the thing, right? this is where the trust comes in. This is where, and they knew who to trust and who was going to take care of things. That while everybody else is a, while everybody else is allowed to just mourn and grieve and reminisce and just sit, there's shit that has to be done. I
Oh,
call it something else, but that's what it is. It's just these things that have to be done. The bank needs to be like, who did they pay? Who do they still have to pay?
right.
Because in the beginning, you don't know how long you're going to be good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, who do we call? And then you need to call all the friends because we don't know what the moment is. And because your mother was social, my mother was social, to honor them, going back to the part about legacy and honoring them, you had to call every single friend, like whether you wanted to or not, whether you had the energy
Yeah.
to or not, right?
Yeah.
And along with that, in the middle of that, the doctors are talking to you. The doctors are asking you to do this and you to do that. And then along with them asking you, your mother is your other job is to to assure your mother it's okay,
Yeah.
right? Even though inside you don't know what's going on.
Don't know.
You're like circus world. And but all these pieces and these parts, and then the house, and I think you had 30 days, right, to get everything out, unless you were going to pay another month,
Oh, yeah, before she moved in.
right?
Yeah,
You
had to get a
know,
U-Haul. I never drove a U-Haul that big before, but I knew I had to do it because who
you
else was going to do it?
and then with me, I'd already been there 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I needed to get back to Denver, but it's like, am I going to just walk away, lock it up, and
Yeah.
do another $800 ticket, or like what am I doing? And so tears in my eyes, crying, thinking it through. Here I am emptying out a house they've lived in for 50 years.
I know. I remember. I still
You
got some
know,
stuff over here.
and people are like, "Oh, aren't you going to keep the like who I
Yeah.
can't keep it." And
Yeah.
here's the crazy part. Here's the part about support and going through it. And I know this is true for you and it's true for me. The person you would call and talk to about it
It
is
was her.
gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you would have walked out of the mortuary and called. You would have ordered the flowers and called. You would have called before you went to order the flowers. Because
Yeah.
at one point I was running around doing things and everybody kept saying, "You want me to go with you?" And I'd say, "No." "You want me to go with you?" "No, I'm okay." But at one point I was at a red light and I started crying and I realized that's because my mother was my road dog.
Yeah.
And that's who I
Mhm.
would have had in the car.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
So it's just it's which again goes back to joy, because it wasn't just this. I call my mother on Sundays, I send her a Mother's Day card, I go visit her for her birthday, oh, are we doing Thanksgiving? It was such an integral part of my being
Yeah.
every day that um and now this energy is no longer here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How many, I could make how people have a cuss jar, right? And they put a quarter in every time they cuss. Like, if I put a quarter in every time I said my mother during the day now, like, I'd probably be a gazillionaire.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. I know. One of the things I have not done, Bestie, is clean out both of her rooms where she lived in this house. So, the reminder, her room is exactly one of the things that I did, as you know, was I recreated both her living room and her bedroom exactly as it was in her house so that she had a feeling of comfort and immediate feeling like she was home. I didn't want her to feel like this was my house. So we took pictures of all of her things in her house and we recreated, we put every book, every piece of paper, every DVD back exactly, every figurine back exactly. And It's still in it. It's still in there. Her chair, like it's still in there. The last DVD she watched is still in the DVD player. Her bed is everything's still in there. I haven't taken her night shifts out of her drawers, and that is something I'm going to have to do. I mean, you had to do it because she was living in a house that needed to, shift. And I've just put that off because it's still in my house. But it's something I think is part of my grieving that I have put off. I'm not sure. I'm a little nervous because I try. I go in, I've moved things, but I haven't thrown anything away. I haven't done that. And I know you were like,
But
oh, you should give some of those things, to some of the senior places. And it's so hard. I have things that still smell like her. Literally, I just was telling you, I found a hat, and I took a pair of gloves that she had yesterday to work because it was cold, and I sniffed all of her out of it yesterday. I tried to sniff it
my
today.
mother kept her mother's house dresses in the attic until my mother was about 70. So,
Thank you, Bestie, for the permission. You're like, that's not what I was going to say. It's not what you were going to say. But,
yeah.
you know,
So, it goes back to grief looking different for different people and looking how it looks.
yeah,
Maybe you'll never take them. Maybe you'll never move it. Maybe you'll never get rid of it. And what's the harm of it? Right? If I was Rockefeller and I could have left that house as a museum, right? I would have done that,
yeah. No, of
you
course,
know.
of course. I get it.
As it is, there's still stuff there, right? That I still need to try to get out of the basement because there's so many pictures and different things.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say that it was emotionally traumatizing to do it the way that I did it.
No, I get it. I get
It
it.
was, it was, it was go live under a rock kind of moment.
Yeah.
But in the moments, in all of it though, the joy is that I got to do it,
Amen.
that I got to go through their things, that I got to see every piece and part. And Tierra was there with me for most of it to help me, but like she didn't know what was important and what wasn't important, what it meant, what this didn't mean. And and so it was you know, let me just say this. If joy is your intention in life, if joy is truly what you desire for yourself, joy will find its way.
At 100. You know, I believe that.
I don't care if you are in the deepest of mud. I don't care if, you know,
Well, and
the
here's
great,
historically, as Black folk, that has been our legacy.
right.
100%.
But joy will find its way. So even amongst the tears, amongst the cleaning out, and the things that you have to do, and all of the things, if to me, if joy is your true intention for being, it does not matter what you're going through or what you're trying to do, joy will find a way.
Well, and the point is, intention means that there is some level of agreement that you will seek it. Right?
Mhm.
Intention doesn't necessarily mean that it will find you without you declaring in some intentional way that you will be in search of it. Uh, you will allow yourself to experience it because sometimes joy passes us by and we don't get to experience it because we weren't ready for it, even though we've said, well, we're intentional. But I think to set an intention also means that you are going to participate in finding it, seeking it, or realizing that it's there. Um, for me, because intention means that there's some level of action. Um, because we say a lot that to be intentional about losing weight. but yet, those gummies come into it. There are things we say that we're intentional about, we're not, but radical joy requires you to participate. And at what level you're at in participating depends on your level of grief. So to your point, like it just might be finding somebody to trust to share what you're going through or to tell those stories to that will be able to receive it in a way that allows you to feel safe enough to laugh. Because I think sometimes we, especially when it comes to grief, we participate in what society tells us grief is supposed to look like. And it goes against maybe how we actually truly feel. You and I are saying we have dismantled that idea of what grief looks like, and we have centered joy in the midst of that. That's a very different thing. People expect you to be sad, to cry, and it's almost like they want you to.
You almost feel bad that you're not.
Yeah, yes, that's the pressure of what this feels like. And so when you are being intentional and radical about how you're going to seek that out, it's an agreement you have just with yourself and God. But it's
Right,
an agreement that you have that I'm going to pay attention. And I think that's what we've done,
right.
and I'm going to hold space for myself. Because that kind of joy is personal. It's not participatory. You and I have our, yeah, just what you said earlier about like it just lands there. It doesn't require me to then all of a sudden engage with that particular moment that you're sharing.
Right.
It's not participatory. You've invited me in. It's not, it's personal. That's how I look at it. And it's more meaningful, I think, for me, to see it that way. So yes. As we close out, Bestie, my last question to you before we do our final closing, um, is a new one. It's not one we discussed, but is what advice or what's something you would say to our listeners today about what we've been talking about? What advice would you give someone? Not that we are here to give a lot of advice, but is there something that you would like to share with our listeners about this Mother's Day, grieving? And sometimes, grief isn't the loss of a parent who's died, and maybe you don't have a really healthy relationship with your loved one. It may be strained, and so loss looks different. It doesn't have to be a death. But is there something that you would like to share with the listeners? Last thoughts.
So what I would say is this, and I sit with this a lot for my own children, is I believe that you were chosen to have the mother that you were chosen to have because that mother has something that you need to get where it is that you're going. And not to say that that mother's going to be able to support you because like you said, you might have a horrible relationship with your mother. She might hate you, you hate her, what have you. But somewhere in even that worst relationship, there was something that you got from that, some nugget that only she could give, whether it's hate, what have you, that you needed to be the person that you are and to keep going to where you're supposed to be,
Yeah.
right? And I say that as a mother because you struggle to support your kids sometimes emotionally, mentally, even financially, or what have you. You struggle sometimes to support them. And then at the same time, I can look back on the relationship I had with my mother, where I had moments where I didn't understand her choices. I
Hmm.
didn't understand why she didn't get it. Um, but the truth of the matter is, it was those decisions that she made, whether I liked them or agreed with them or not, that gave me what I needed to go forward. It is her not understanding what it is that I need that still was helpful to me to be or get it from wherever God really wanted me to get it from,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so my last thought about motherhood, about grieving a mother, is that that mother was chosen for you. You know, my mom used to say all the time, if you don't like me, take it up with God. Next time you come this way, asking for somebody else. She would say that. And then as you become a mother, that statement that she would made, and it, on one hand it was flip, on the other hand, she'd be serious about
Okay.
it, right? Um, but as you become a mother, you understand that statement more and more. Like, I don't know why he chose me to be your mother either, but I know that he chose me, and because he chose me, I'm going to do what I believe to be what I'm supposed to do for you,
Yeah.
right? Or not do for you,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes people are struggling with demons. So
Yeah.
I would say that. Um, and I would say that from going through this process, the tiniest of moments with my mother um, have been the best memories.
Hmm.
Whether it's a smell, whether it's an ink pen, like she be, because you and her have, like I said, beautiful handwriting, and she could be somewhere, and somebody will hand you a pen. Oh, we need you to sign this, and she said, "Oh, this is a nice pen,"
Hmm.
right? Um, just even just having boxes of tissue. My mother was big on tissue. Woo, she was big on tissue,
Yeah.
and at one point they don't do it anymore because they found out that it could kill us, like everything else.
Yeah.
They used to have where the tissue itself matched the color of the box.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
Remember that?
The blue and all the
She
pink.
loved green. And so we would drive all over the city buying them.
Hmm.
Like, that is again an example of living a big life,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That you're driving to all these different Rite Aids to get this green tissue because you like that the tissue matches the box.
Yeah.
That's a big life move when you think about it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And I love what you said. I think that's great advice. I think it's the small things for me as well. Obviously with my mother, um, I'm the youngest of 20, I think 20 first cousins. I'm the baby of the family. Um, I was with my mother, the longest in terms of just hanging out with her. I used to go to bingo with her when I was 9 years old, and so my memories are long with her. I sat at her feet. Um, I was a witness to her life in a
Mhm.
way that is just the best gift ever, and like not everything was perfect. We didn't always agree. But when you witness your mother, and it takes a while for you to get there as a daughter, right? It's really hard to do in your 20s. But as you get older and you start to witness and recall moments in the past where you may have misunderstood, and there's that level of clarity, and you become a witness to her life, it's magical. It's magical. And I think I've done that for my children as well. They're all very different. To me, they've been raised in three different families, right? Same mother, but three different families. You come in at different birth orders. You come in, I'm a different mother because I might have, I was growing through some things when I was younger. Going through a divorce changes the way you mother sometimes. And, here I am on the other side of that, a very different mother. And so I think you're born into these different families. But the one thing I take from so that experience of witnessing my mother is being a witness to my children and not participating in a way that, as they're adults now, where I'm influencing necessarily, because you can't really you can't really do that with these older ones, but that I witness them, and that because of that, there's a level of trust and respect for when I'm having to be the mom and not the life coach. And the thing is, we learn as we go, you
Yeah.
know, we learn as we go. And Maya Angelou, that's my girl. She has a saying, we do the best we can with what we have, and when we know better, we do better. I think that is the definition of mothering. Um, and we get to the other side as daughters, where we're able to sort of give our parents grace,
Yes,
in the moments where we thought maybe we just misunderstood them.
we misunderstood. Well, we hadn't lived enough
Yeah,
to understand, right?
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I think I wish everyone who is celebrating Mother's Day, I have very, very happy Mother's Day. Um, it is for me how I'm going to spend it. I don't even know yet. I don't have any major plans. I never did either. Like, when my kids were little, I was like, I'm a mom, so we're just gonna go to the zoo because how are we gonna go to a fancy restaurant with these three children? So I've never really, done the mom's spa day or anything like that. But I think tomorrow's going to be just a day of remembrance for me, one where I might journal. I love to journal, and just record for my kids this moment. Um, and just be good to myself. Just be good to myself. I'm gonna order some Chili's ribs. I'm not cooking. And my kids, even though they're not here, they've sent me gifts, and I think that's lovely and sweet, but I don't need them. They are my gifts. I've never needed that on a Mother's Day. I just need my kids. If they could all be home with me tomorrow, fly in from wherever they were, that would be, look, I'm getting ready to cry just thinking about it. Like that would be like the gift of all gifts because I like them. I like them as people. I love them from the ground to God. I do. And I love you too, bestie.
I love you. I love you. It's gonna be a different day, but it'll be still a good day. Um, and the forecast is joy.
Yes, the forecast is joy. That's what I wish for everybody tomorrow is some level of intentional, radical joy, peace of mind. That's what I wish for everybody. So as we
Yeah.
end, is there one thing that your mother taught you that you could share before we close out? One thing your mom
The
taught you
one
that
thing that
you
she taught me that I do a lot, um, one thing that she taught me is to say hi.
can
I know it sounds
No.
silly and small, but to say hi because her thing was, and she said, and it doesn't matter if they don't say hi back because you don't know, you might be that person's only interaction all day. And so just say hi. That was her thing. Just say hi.
Yeah,
And so I do that. I probably take that to the 10th level because I'm like, how's your day? How you doing? How your mama doing?
yeah,
But that was her thing to always say hi. And I see it in my children because, as you know, like they both just moved to Florida. And when I went into the building, the people who cleaned the windows, everyone knew who they were
yeah,
because my children say hi. And your child could, you know, going back to the matriarch book even, right? Your child could be the biggest star to everyone in the world, billion-dollar person, but as a mother to see things that your mother passed to you that you've now passed to your children in live action, to see it that does me in.
yeah,
That does me in.
yeah. I think
So,
she taught me, well, she gave me my love of reading and writing, but she
mhm.
really taught me to be curious.
Mm.
My mom, and it kind of goes with your mom. My mother, said how she loved people, right? That's why they were so friendly and caring and giving. But she was interested in them. Even when I'd go to the hospital, she'd say, "Oh, there was a nurse on last night. She got three kids. I need you to bring me some books." But she lives over in Bell Vernon, and can you believe she drives all the way here? And she went to school in Duquesne, where Xavier Justice went to school. She knew everyone because she asked questions, and she was always very curious. And my mom led us a very small life too. She loved Pittsburgh. She didn't fly, she didn't travel much, but she traveled in her imagination, in her curiosity of others. Um, and I think that's something that I take to heart. I love to know about people. I think we both do, where we're able to also do the same thing. Like, guess what? I talked to so and so. Do you know he's related to that? It's just how do we connect things together? And but yeah, her curiosity, um, and her love of I think her family. That's her biggest legacy. She loved them, the young ones, her great great nieces and nephews. And she taught me to lean in a little bit more, and that's from not having done so. So that's what she taught me by not doing it. And you know me, I've led a small life too, in parallel to my mother in many ways, and I'm trying to break that as a lesson from my mom. I think she would have wanted to have a larger footprint in the world. And I'm trying to also do that as well. You know, I am. I just flew. I'm about to fly to Denver
I
soon.
don't think you have a small. I think you view it small, but I don't necessarily think it's small.
Mm.
So, you've lived in New England, you've done like a lot of different things,
I know,
and
but I put off stuff.
you do put off
I
stuff.
put off stuff out of
You do
fear,
put
out
off
of
stuff.
just concern,
Right,
and so forth.
right.
So that is the lesson I'm taking that she did not do. I'm taking that lesson from her is to do that more. Yes, yes. All right. Well, listen, we did it.
We did it. This is
We wish
great.
we
This is
wish everybody,
wonderful.
yes, a
I
very happy
can't
Mother's
wait
Day.
to see who your next guest is. I'm excited about that.
Yes, well,
Um,
you're going to be up in June again, right? Because we're going to do a Father's Day edition.
oh,
I sent you that,
you
right?
probably did. You
And
probably
we
did.
we also have one coming up in the next few months on friendship,
Okay.
redo. But if you are someone who is interested in sharing some names or referrals of women that I should be talking to, being curious about, any topics that you're interested in, please let me know. You can reach
Because joy is a movement.
Joy is a movement, and we're trying to create that, right? We are trying to create that movement. You can follow me, Joy Rising Movement on Facebook, and on Instagram. And this will be on YouTube and Facebook as well. You can reach me via email at the moment at ljperry1226, that's my birthday, at gmail.com. Send me whatever topics you'd like us to talk about and anyone that you would like to see on the pod. We are here, and we hope that joy rises every day for you in whatever way and shape that it comes. So God bless you and thank you for joining us. We appreciate you so much for being here, and onward.
Thank you for the invitation. It was wonderful.
You are my bestie, and I couldn't do this without you. This has been a journey that I never wanted, but I am so honored that we're walking it together. So I love you, girl.
I love you too. Happy Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.